All right, so get ready to dive into a place that's as fascinating as it is, well, eerie. Sloss Furnaces in Birmingham, Alabama. It's one of those places that always seems to pop up on those most haunted lists. And today we're going to, try to figure out why that is.
What I find really interesting about Sloss Furnaces is that it's not like some crumbling ruin hidden away in the woods. This place was the beating heart of Birmingham's industrial rise. I mean, they used to call Birmingham the Magic City, and honestly, Sloss Furnaces is a big reason for that nickname.
Yeah, for sure. It's true. For almost a century, from the 1880s to 1971, Sloss is churning out a huge chunk of the iron used in the U.S. We're talking like two massive blast furnaces, a whole complex of buildings. It's hard to imagine the sheer scale of it all.
Yeah, and the scale of human labor, too. You see, the story of Sloss Furnaces, it isn't just about molten metal and, industrial progress. It's about the human costs that came with it. Working conditions back then were, well, they were notoriously brutal.
Yeah, the sources we dug into paint a pretty grim picture, that's for sure. Imagine like 12-hour shifts in intense heat, sometimes over 150 degrees. And on top of that, these workers were surrounded by, well, heavy machinery, constantly at risk of accidents.
And accidents did happen, tragically often, in fact. One source we looked at actually recounted this story of a worker who liked to eat his lunch near a large wheel, for the breeze, I guess. And one day his clothes got caught and, well, he was pulled in and crushed before anyone could even react.
God, that's awful. And it really highlights, I think, the dangerous environment those workers faced every single day. And what makes it even more unsettling is that we're not talking about, some distant past here. This was happening well into the 20th century.
Oh, absolutely. It's a stark reminder of how recently these kinds of working conditions were considered, well, normal. And sadly, it gets even more complicated when you consider that Sloss Furnaces used convict labor, primarily African Americans, up until 1928.
And even after that, segregation was still the norm at Sloss, right up until the 1960s. Black workers were forced into separate facilities, given lower wages, and faced, well, blatant discrimination. It's heavy stuff. And honestly, when you think about all that suffering, all that pain, like etched into the very fabric of the place, it's no wonder that Sloss has become, a breeding ground for ghost stories.
Precisely. And one of the most persistent stories revolves around this figure named Slag Wormwood. He's usually portrayed as this almost mythically cruel foreman who pushed workers to their deaths, to boost production, only to meet a fitting end by falling into the ore himself.
It's like something out of a Greek tragedy.
Yeah, right.
Almost too perfect. Except, well, there's a catch.
There is. There's no actual historical record of a slag wormwood ever existing at Sloss. It seems like this particular tale might be an urban legend amplified over the years, maybe even fueled by Sloss's own Halloween event, Freight Furnace.
Oh, yeah. Talk about leaning into the spooky reputation. Yeah. Or do you think it's all smoke and mirrors? There actually was people dying on the office.
Of truth, a real tragedy, it gets exaggerated over time. It's almost like we need those larger than life villains to make sense of suffering on such a large scale.
Yeah, I get that. And the stories of strange occurrences at Sloss, they don't stop there.
Yeah.
Like one source we found mentioned a night watchman who swore he was physically shoved by an unseen force.
Yeah.
He even said he heard a voice, maybe Slag himself, telling him to get back to work.
And then there's that story about those 3 workers who went missing. They were eventually found, locked inside a boiler room, claiming they'd encountered a burned man who urged them to push some steel.
Chilling stuff. And then, of course, there's the story of Samuel Blumenthal, another night watchman, who supposedly had an encounter with, some describe it as a demonic entity, right before Sloss closed down in 1971.
Blumenthal's story is definitely one of the more intense ones. He was making his rounds just like any other night when he claimed to come face to face with this entity. This being attacked him, and Blumenthal was later found with severe burns. The details are murky, like a lot of these paranormal reports. It's often, a blend of firsthand accounts, rumors, and embellishments added over time.
Right, like a game of telephone where the story changes a little bit with each telling.
Exactly. But what we do know for sure is that the Birmingham police have received over 100 reports of unexplained activity at Sloss Furnaces over the years.
And we're not just talking about casual visitors getting, spooked, right? There have been multiple paranormal investigation teams, some with serious credentials, who have gone in with their EMF readers, EVP recorders, and they've come out with some pretty compelling evidence.
It's like you have these different layers of narrative all stacked on top of each other. You have the undeniable weight of history, the very real tragedies that occurred within those walls, and then this overlay of paranormal experiences that, frankly, defy easy explanation.
It really makes you wonder, what is it about certain places that seem to hold on to energy, to memories, maybe even to spirits? Is it possible that the intensity, the emotions, the suffering, the sheer energy of what happened at Sloss Furnaces has somehow left an imprint?
It's a question we may never be able to definitively answer. But what's undeniable is that Sloss Furnaces, whether you believe in the paranormal or not, stands as a powerful monument to a specific time and place in American history. It's a reminder of the human cost of progress, a canvas upon which countless stories, both real and imagined, have been painted.
And speaking of painting a picture, what a lot of people might not realize is that Sloss Furnaces isn't just sitting there frozen in time. It's not some abandoned off-limits site. In fact, it's become a pretty happening place.
It really has, and that actually ties into a fascinating trend we're seeing more and more these days. Industrial heritage tourism.
Okay, industrial heritage tourism. You're going to have to break that down for me a little. What exactly does that mean?
Well, essentially, it's when places that were once purely industrial, like factories, mines, shipyards, are, repurposed and given a new life, a new meaning. They're transformed into museums, cultural centers, event spaces.
That's actually really cool. So like Sloss Furnaces is a prime example of that.
Absolutely. They've done an incredible job preserving the site. You can walk through those cavernous spaces, see the rusted machinery, and get a real sense of what it was like when molten metal flowed there. It's about experiencing history in a tangible way.
Wow, that actually gives me chills just thinking about it. So how does it work? Can you just wander around on your own, or do they have guided tours, or what?
They actually have options for both. You can choose to do a self-guided tour where you wander at your own pace, or if you want a deeper understanding of the site and its history, they offer guided tours on Saturdays.
Oh, I love that they have different levels of engagement, something for everyone. You can tell they've really put a lot of thought into making this site accessible and interesting, not just for history buffs or, paranormal enthusiasts, but for anyone who's curious.
And that's so important because preserving these sites isn't just about bricks and mortar. It's about preserving stories, understanding how the past shapes our present. Sloss Furnaces, for example, has the potential to teach us about, well, industrial processes, labor history, social dynamics, you name it.
It's almost like looking at a cross-section of time, right?
Yeah.
You can see how far we've come, but also how much of our past is still relevant, still resonating today. Okay, but here's where it gets really cool and kind of unexpected. On top of the historical tours, Sloss Furnaces is now a hub for the arts.
It really is. And it's amazing to see that kind of transformation, isn't it? To think that a place once defined by the roar of furnaces and the sweat of hard labor is now echoing with music and alive with artistic expression.
It's a pretty incredible contrast. So what kind of artsy things are we talking about here?
Well, they have these fantastic metal arts programs where you can, learn about iron casting and create your own pieces. There are art exhibitions showcasing these incredible sculptures, often inspired by the industrial setting itself, and they even host concerts and festivals on the grounds.
Concerts and festivals at Sloss Furnaces. That's wild. Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, they have everything from local bands to national acts performing in this incredibly unique and atmospheric setting. They even have a huge metal arts festival every year, which draws in, artists, enthusiasts from all over. Imagine fire dancers, blacksmith demonstrations, live music, all set against the backdrop of these towering furnaces.
That's incredible. It really speaks to the adaptability of these historical sites and how they can find new life, new purpose in the present day. But you know what else is wild? They also host weddings there. Weddings.
They do. They rent out event spaces for weddings, corporate gatherings, all sorts of things. It's a testament to how much Sloss Furnaces has become woven into the fabric of the community.
When you think about it, getting married at a place like Sloss Furnaces, with its history, its reputation, it's kind of a bold statement. It's like saying, we're aware of the past, the darkness, the potential for things to go bump in the night. And we're choosing to celebrate love and new beginnings here anyway.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition, isn't it? This tension between past and present, light and shadow. It makes you question how we as a society reconcile with these darker aspects of history, even with the possibility of something otherworldly lurking beneath the surface, while simultaneously embracing these spaces for joy, creativity, for life, really.
That's a lot to unpack. And it kind of brings up a big question. With everything we've discussed about Sloss Furnaces, how much of it should we take at face value? Are the Sloss Furnaces truly haunted?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. And as with most things, there's no easy answer. We've walked through this maze of verifiable facts and more ambiguous paranormal claims. Now, it's up to you, the listener, to decide what resonates, what you believe, and what questions you still have.
We've given you the lay of the land, but the exploration doesn't stop there. As we continue our deep dive, we'll delve deeper into the psychology of hauntings, the power of suggestion, and how our own perceptions shape the way we experience the world around us. Stay tuned.
You know, it's funny. Even after, digging into all of this, I'm still kind of torn. Part of me, I admit, loves a good ghost story. And Sloss Furnaces, they've got those in spades. But then, learning about the real hardships those workers faced, man, it sends chills down your spine in a whole different way. It really does. And honestly, I think that's what makes this particular deep dive so compelling. It highlights how blurry the line between history and hauntings can actually become. Because sometimes the most unsettling stories, the ones that really stick with you, are the ones rooted in truth, even if they've been, embellished a bit or reinterpreted over time.
So, where does that leave us? What are we supposed to make of the Sloss Furnaces and its legacy? Is it a haunted house of horrors? A testament to, I don't know, human resilience? Or maybe both.
That actually reminds me of this quote by William Faulkner. He said, "The past isn't dead. It's not even past." And in Sloss Furnaces, it embodies that idea perfectly, don't you think? Whether or not you believe in ghosts or, any of that, the site stands as this powerful reminder of how the past continues to shape the present.
It's like those echoes of what came before are still, bouncing around, influencing how we experience the space today.
Oh.
And speaking of experiencing the space, it's incredible how Sloss Furnaces has been transformed.
Yeah.
I mean, from this industrial behemoth into a place for art, for community, for new beginnings.
It's amazing. It's a remarkable example of how we can reclaim spaces with difficult pasts and breathe new life into them. And I think that's a really important point to consider here, because it's easy to get caught up in the spooky stories, the potential for paranormal activity, right? But we shouldn't lose sight of the human stories, the resilience, the creativity that defines Sloss Furnaces today.
You're absolutely right. So for those who might be a little less, I don't know, interested in ghosts and more interested in, say, music or art, what kinds of things can they experience at Sloss Furnaces today?
Well, as we touched on earlier, Sloss has become quite a hub for the arts, actually, especially metal arts. They have these incredible programs where you can actually learn the art of iron casting.
Wait, really? You can make your own molten metal masterpieces?
Yes. They have workshops for all skill levels, really, from beginners to experienced metalworkers. And it's not just about, learning the technical skills. It's about tapping into that creative energy, connecting with a craft that has such a deep history at Sloss.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you could literally be shaping metal in the same place where, a century ago, workers were doing the same thing, just, under very different circumstances.
Exactly. And then there are the art exhibitions. Sloss has these amazing galleries where they showcase contemporary sculptures, often made from, metal and industrial materials, drawing inspiration from the site itself.
It's like this beautiful collision of past and present,
Yeah.
industry and art, all within these same walls. And you mentioned music festivals earlier. Tell me more about those. What kind of vibe do they have?
Well, imagine this. The sun is setting, casting these long shadows from the furnaces, right? And there's this energy in the air, this excitement. The stages come alive with music, everything from local bands to bigger names. And it's not just music. They have fire dancers, blacksmith demonstrations, food trucks, all kinds of things. It's a celebration of art, community, and the industrial heritage of Birmingham.
Wow. That sounds like quite an experience. It's amazing to think that a place once, associated with such hardship and darkness, is now a place where people gather to celebrate, to create, to connect with each other.
It is remarkable, and it speaks to the power of transformation, not just of physical spaces, but of our perceptions as well. And even if someone isn't into metal arts or music festivals or any of that, there's still plenty to see and do at Sloss Furnaces. They've done a fantastic job of preserving the site and making it accessible to, well, to everyone, really.
So, like, walk me through it. What would I do if I were to visit Sloss today?
Well, you could start by exploring the grounds on your own. They have these really well-designed walkways and informational signs that guide you through the different areas, explaining the history and significance of each one.
Oh, so you can kind of go at your own pace, soak it all in.
Exactly. But if you want a more, I don't know, a more immersive experience, I highly recommend taking one of their guided tours. The guides they're incredibly knowledgeable, not just about the historical facts, but also the lore, the legends, the ghost stories that have become so intertwined with Sloss's identity.
So you can get the full Sloss experience, the history, the hauntings, the art, the whole shebang. When you think about it, it's kind of a microcosm of the human experience, isn't it? This place has seen it all. Triumph, tragedy, transformation. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there's always potential for light, for growth, for something new to emerge.
It's a powerful message, and one that resonates deeply, I think, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other haunted places out there might be waiting for their chance to evolve, to find new purpose and meaning.
It's a question worth pondering, and maybe, just maybe, by re-examining these places, not just through the lens of fear and the paranormal, but through the lens of history, of art, of human connection, maybe we can unlock new layers of understanding, not just about those spaces, but about ourselves as well.
It's funny, isn't it, how we often categorize places like Sloss Furnaces as just, haunted, as if that one word encompasses, the entirety of their existence. But as we've been talking about, there's so much more to these places, so many layers of, history, of human experience, of transformation. Yeah, it's like what we see on the surface, right? Those ghost stories, those unsettling feelings you get. They're really just the tip of the iceberg, as they say. Beneath that, there lies a much, much deeper, richer narrative. One that speaks to, I think, our shared human experience, our capacity for both darkness and light.
And sometimes it's those darker chapters, those whispers of tragedy and hardship. They can actually, they can lead us to a more profound appreciation for the present, I think.
Absolutely. By acknowledging the past, by understanding the struggles that took place, we gain a deeper understanding of the resilience and the progress that defines our present moment, right?
It's like those old photographs. The ones that show us where we came from, remind us of the strength and perseverance of those who came before us.
Yeah, exactly. It's about honoring those stories, both the triumphant and the tragic, and recognizing that they're all part of what makes a place like Sloss Furnaces so unique, so captivating even. And I think that's an important takeaway for our listeners today.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners walk away with? What's the nugget of wisdom, so to speak, you want them to carry with them?
I think it's this. And next time you encounter a place that's labeled as haunted, don't shy away from the stories, the legends, even the fear, lean into them. But don't stop there. Dig deeper. Uncover the history, the human experiences that shape that space, because you might be surprised by what you discover. Not just about the place itself, but about our shared human journey.
Beautifully said. It's about embracing the full spectrum of a place's, identity.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the shadows while also celebrating the light. And who knows, maybe in doing so we can help these so-called haunted places find a new kind of peace, a new sense of purpose in the present day. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those flashlights handy.